de inversión. Y lo hacemos de la mano de Alliance Bernstein. Hablamos a continuación con Tom Wijsman, es Senior Investment Strategist for Alliance Bernstein Equity Services. Tom, thank you so much for having us a few minutes. Good afternoon from Spain.
It's a pleasure to be again with your broadcasting.
Thank you so much. A pleasure for us too. Tom, we need to talk about healthcare, about this sector, and healthcare is an investment opportunity. Why should investors consider healthcare as an important building block in their portfolio?
Yes, healthcare companies are of course always part of a global or a European or US portfolio. But consider the wide ranges of possibilities of investing in healthcare. And I think it's important to see that healthcare is both an offensive and a defensive investment strategy at the same time. And I think we have a slide that is showing the MSCI World Healthcare over the last 10 years compared to the MSCI World. And you can see that specifically, over the last 10 years, healthcare as a sector has done very well against the MSCI World, so done better, and I would call that offense. And in the same slide, we are showing the data over the last year, where you can see that specifically when the MSCI World was down quite a bit in the volatile period that we had last year, the MSCI World Healthcare sector held up much better. So it is offense and defense at the same time, and that makes it an interesting building block in investment portfolios.
Tom, you are talking about these characteristics, defensive, offensive, at the same time. What are the reasons for these interesting characteristics in healthcare investment?
Yeah, sure, and I think it's a combination of factors. First of all, it's demographics. People getting older need more healthcare services, pharmaceutical products. You get an older population. You get more and more users in the emerging markets, hundreds of millions of middle-class users who need healthcare services, doctors, hospitals, equipment, etc. That makes it a long-term growth trend. And then, on the defense side, it is, it's not as volatile in the pricing. Healthcare companies have the possibilities to increase their prices. They have price stability. That makes it an interesting situation. And last but not least, I would say that, you could see that the earnings of healthcare companies held up much better over the last years, and that makes it, I think, an interesting profile, being more offensive and defensive at the same time.
We've seen these revisions, the MSCI World that you are showing us now, and what are the risks related to healthcare investing?
Yes, of course, there are always risks to investing. And I would say there are a few, but compared to other sectors, they are much less. Regulatory controls, price controls, budget controls in hospitals, and the availability of labor, I would say, in hospitals, doctors, availability, etc. That makes it more difficult. For instance, to do tests for new drugs, that makes it not as easy. But in general, I think the risks are much lower than in other sectors, and that is shown also in the stability of the performance of these sectors.
And Tom, which healthcare sectors are the most interesting to invest in?
You couldn't say one sector is better than the others. If you look 20 years ago, the major healthcare companies were the big pharma companies. They come up with new drugs, they came up with new applications against diseases at that time. But along the way, over the last 20 years, there are so many new sectors. You have biotechnology, you have healthcare equipment and supplies, you have healthcare providers, you have testing companies, you have production companies, you have healthcare technology and even IT-related healthcare companies. And of course, healthcare insurance companies. So in that whole spectrum, there are a lot of possibilities to invest in. And I'll mention a few. You know, if you talk about robots, with robots you can do operations, and that makes it easier for the patient with less complications. Patients can leave the hospital much faster than with a traditional operation. You have 3D printing, which makes it possible to make a new heart valve, an artificial heart valve. A company like Edward Life Sciences in that space. You have diagnostics, diagnostic tools in order to make the diagnosis for a certain disease. Gene mapping, you know, a company called Illumina is specialized in genetic mapping, and so that you can see what the DNA is and the deficiency in DNA and what kind of disease is related to that. In the biotech space, you have all kinds of new drugs, monoclonal antibodies, new cancer drugs, and then last but not least, I would say telehealth, that through digital technologies, the connection between patients, hospitals, and doctors and pharmacies are much easier. So there's a wide variety of possibilities to invest in healthcare. So there is not one specific sector, and I think that for a healthcare investor, it's important to look at all the different sectors that are available to invest in.
And Ton, Alliance Bernstein has a healthcare fund with strong characteristics. What is the background for this success?
Yes, and I think we are very proud of it. The fund we have is a fund with roughly $3 billion assets under management. It's in the helm of a very experienced team. Vinny Tapar is the portfolio manager already for 10 years. And with colleagues all over the world who are doing the research, with a very close cooperation between research and portfolio management. But the key, I think, is the fact that we look at business over science. Of course, without science, you cannot develop new drugs. Without science, you cannot develop a new artificial knee. You cannot have telehealth. But it's important to look at the business characteristics of the companies. And we look at companies with strong earnings, strong return on invested capital, that when they make a profit, that they invest the profits profitable for future growth is an important element. These companies are not a fly on the wall. These companies have many products already on the market. We have in the biotech space, we have 4 or 5 companies that have 4 or 5 drugs on the market, which are very successful, and for diseases where is definitely a strong need. So it is, but we look at the financials. Business over science is important. If you just look only at the science, if you hope to have a new drug approved, and you're waiting to get an approval, and the binary risk of not being approved is a big risk. So we definitely are focusing on these financials instead of specifically the science. It is a portfolio with representatives from all kinds of sectors, but all these companies have these strong financial characteristics, and we are very proud of the results that we had. The fund has 5 stars with Morningstar. It has very strong sustainability track record. It's excluding a number of sectors as well, and it has a very strong ESG research part as well. So it's a combination of factors, and I think that makes it a strong portfolio going forward.
A combination of factors for this success. Thank you so much, Ton Wijsman from Alliance Bernstein. It's been a pleasure.
It is always a pleasure to be at your company.
Pues nos quedamos, por tanto, con ese análisis.